Hello, everybody. My name's James, and for the benefit of those listening on the audio, you're listening to my regular YouTube live stream, Ask James, which this week is on a Tuesday due to Friday's Game Week 11 FPL deadline. We'll be having our People's Poll this week on Friday instead. Keep an eye on social media channels for an update of the topics that you can choose for that on Friday. So, with no team news to give you this week, without further ado, let's get straight into the questions, see what the YouTube community want to talk about this week. I don't know, what could it possibly be? The first question is not about Tottenham. Oh my God. FPL Kaka says, hi James, do you think triple Chelsea defence could be a viable strategy? If so, which three? Well, the first question I'd throw back at you, my friend, is why are you thinking about that now? And why weren't you thinking about it 4 weeks ago? What is it on this kind of run of 5 brilliant fixtures, of which Burnley is the last one at the weekend, that's made you suddenly go, oh, now I want to think about triple Chelsea defence? Yes, of course it is, because they're probably the best pound-for-pound defensive assets in the game, particularly at the price values, the price points of people like Rudiger, even Ben Chilwell, obviously Reece James, Cesar Azpilicueta, I'm sure will come back into the team somewhere at some point. So, I mean, for me, if you're going to go that route, I would go James Chilwell and Rudiger. Definitely Rudiger as a security blanket. And I think for your two other defensive players, you either go high for like a Trent or a Cancelo. That's the other problem with it. I mean, do you want to go back 5 with Trent and Cancelo? Or do you want to pair it with, say, I don't know, Livramento and perhaps Brighton might be a decent rotation for Southampton, for example, perhaps. And because if you go with 3 Chelsea triple defence, you want some sort of security on the back, right? You're not going to be going Javier Manquillo because you know there's a good chance any game that you're going to need your bench. Mohammed says, hello James, hope you're well. How optimistic are you about the permanent appointment of Conte? Finally! My God, I can't believe it took 2 questions. How we might set up the team. Thanks, looking forward to the stream. You're very welcome, mate. I was trying to think today if I was ever happier with an appointment of a manager, and I'm not sure I have been in all my 30 years of supporting Tottenham. Even in Pochettino, I've said this before, actually, when Pochettino was appointed, I loved the way his Southampton team played. But actually, for me at the time, he wasn't my first choice. I wasn't disappointed about it, but he wasn't my first choice. The majority of other appointments have been, well, underwhelming. I had the quote 2 years ago, which people wanted to kill me for the sold our soul to the devil. I wasn't wrong. And we've been facing the consequences of it ever since. The difference between disappointment and that high-profile appointment from 2 years ago is the previous manager is one of the greatest managers of all time, by the way. And let me make that clear, as much as I dig him out. Jose Mourinho is one of the greatest football managers of all time. Was an elite manager. Antonio Conte is the current elite football manager, arguably in the top 5 in the world, depending on whose opinion you get hold of. Some would place him higher. I don't think as many people wouldn't place him in the top 10. Now, right now, Tottenham haven't got one of the top 10 best teams in the world. But Antonio Conte cannot make this situation worse. Unless, of course, we get to December, we're still faltering in the league. He asks for some new players and Daniel Levy goes, well, actually, no, we're not signing any players. And he just walks out. That's the only way you can see it getting worse than what the situation currently is. But he's one of the things I've spoken about is getting the team fit. There's no doubt if you don't run through brick walls for Antonio Conte, you're not going to be part of the team. There is a misconception that he's a defensive coach. Does anyone think Thomas Tuchel's a defensive coach? I don't. What with Chilwell and James as wing-backs and the likes of Mount and Havertz. It's not a defensive team. They're just very good defensively. Antonio Conte likes to play front foot football, and he will have patterns of play which Tottenham haven't had for, to be honest, I would go even beyond Pochettino's last year. They haven't had it in the team since Mr. Dembele went. I keep coming back to it. It's definitely going to be an improvement. I don't expect miracles overnight, because the one thing that you'll have known I kept repeating is this squad is not good enough. It doesn't instantly mean, oh my God, Tottenham are going to win trophies this year, and we might. But that squad is not good enough, and he's going to be the biggest test of his managerial career, because he's got a standard of being, first, and that's not an overnight fix. Like, he can't win the title with Tottenham next year, in my opinion. I think for him to win a title with Tottenham, he would need at least 18 months to then prep for the following year. And that's very dependent on getting probably 7-8 of the players in, and they would all have to work out as sign-ins. So no one thinks it's like magic gold dust, but we had to appoint either the best that we could find, which is him, or someone who was going to come in and absolutely could fulfill the promise of playing good, attractive attacking football to at least make us enjoyable again. Conte gives us a chance instantly. And I think I have to listen to my own words last week when we did the Manchester United podcast last Tuesday on Solskjaer. And I'd said that Conte was the right fit for United, and me and Suj were in agreement and said, look, if Conte takes over at United, what happens to them this year? Definitely top 4. Even could make them a live runner instantly in the Champions League. So if I think that for Manchester United, why would it not mean that Tottenham could now be contenders, let's say, for the top 4, or contenders for the domestic trophies or the Thursday night cup? So I'm very pleased that he's in. I feel better about it. In the summer, I never felt it was right. I didn't feel it was right because I guess I've had 3-4 months to accept the possibility of Antonio Conte being Tottenham manager, and then live through the Nuno era of kind of regret of you should have just given that guy what he wanted, basically. But I know it's short term. Like, Antonio Conte is not going to be Tottenham manager in 2026. It would be surprising, I think, if it went beyond the summer of 2023. In all honesty, when his contract runs out, maybe 2024. I think Tottenham have the right within the contract to extend it should they want to. But I think even that, 2024, I couldn't see it being any longer than that. He comes in, he does a job, he wins his shit, and as soon as he gets pissed off, he fucks off and goes somewhere else. Tottenham need fixing. One of the things the players need at the moment is not just fitness, they need clear instruction in terms of how to play the game. And he's going to give it. I'm absolutely certain. I think we can all probably predict it will be a back 3. I don't think that's a certainty, but I think we can probably all predict it. And no doubt something else is going to come up. The question is going to ask me about personnel. Holostamos says, hello James, am I crazy to want to get rid of Ronaldo for Tony so I can get Son over Sarr, and next week I can choose Saka to Foden or Vardy to Kane? There's a lot going on here, mate. Tight schedule from game week 14, benching problems then. My friend, you're like in the top 1,000 in the world. You don't need to be asking me for advice. You know how to play this game very, very well. Nothing's crazy. You got a principal idea of moving Cristiano Ronaldo when he's got Man City to Ivan Toney when he's got Norwich. Well, if there's a time to make that sort of move, it's this week, isn't it? I'm okay with it, mate. Dan says, hi mate, do you think it's a good time to get Brighton covering Sky Fantasy Football if not already, considering fixtures and passing tiers? Yeah, I think they're the first place I'd go, Dan, if I have any issues this midweek with injuries. They're the first place I'd go. I'd like to buy Webster though rather than Dunk because it's a saving of 1.4 million, but I don't think they're a 5:30 kickoff on Saturday, so we're not going to get any information beforehand in terms of if Webster will be back in the team. You couldn't buy Duffy at the moment. Wouldn't go near Lamptey or Veltman for Sky Fantasy Football, so you'd have to go Dunk at the moment. But yeah, genuinely, Dan, any injury this midweek where then, okay, right, I have to get someone in that I'd not planned to this week, they're first in line for me. And I think that they're probably going to be a constant for me, Dan, week to week, because the entry points are quite difficult for them because they're always playing on a Saturday. Week to week, I'm probably going to be in that situation. Okay, injury. Let's look at Brighton again. And by the time it comes around, if I don't have injuries this week, it might be, say, Webster plays on Saturday and I've got the clear clarity on it. That's the only problem. Of course, this week, Newcastle at home feels like a great week to go and buy them. Hasselbank's win says, straight to it, James. What can Conte actually achieve with this squad? It's full of bums apart from 2, and Kane is a man down currently. Top 4 out of the question, in my opinion. He's good, but not that good. Top 4's not out of the question because we let Manchester United beat us at the weekend. United, West Ham, Arsenal are all better than Tottenham. No doubt about that. And once Leicester get players back fit, they probably are as well, in my opinion. Wolves are beginning to look like a good side as well. But for it to be out of the question, now how can it be? He's coming in, starting in fresh, and he's 5 points behind. So it's not beyond the possibility. It would be an unbelievable achievement if he could get Tottenham to 4th this year. But it might be, depending on the consistency of particularly United, that the points total for 4th might be lower than what we were anticipating pre-season. So, if it comes down where 4th's going to be sort of 67, 68 points or something, then Tottenham are a live runner. If West Ham maintain their current trend of hitting 2 points per game, that's going to be very difficult for Tottenham to catch with so many poor players in that squad. But it's not impossible. You got to think as well is with the fixtures coming up, if he comes in and hits the ground running, it's not inconceivable that Tottenham could win the next 5 games now, because it's completely changed. Tottenham will go into the next 5 games as favourites for each individual game. Now, to get 15 points is obviously very unlikely, but should Tottenham get 15 points, we'll be sitting here in 5 weeks and we're definitely going there in the race. So, and he doesn't need 15 points immediately. I think he probably needs at least a 2 point per game ratio, so sort of like 10 points over the next 5 to maintain a possibility and a reasonable start. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's out of the question. More realistic at the moment and more important is to obviously get the identity back and the fans behind the team. And I'm absolutely certain that that's going to happen, because literal simple basics of football, like running after the thing, getting stuck in and trying to play attractive football, which again, Conte's got this narrative that it's not. Trust me, it will be. He's going to get the fans on side. And the fans know that this is a current elite manager, right? So now, like, them players have got no more excuses. No more excuses. There is no not turning up for Antonio Conte. Trust me, if Kane... Everybody thinks, obviously, Kane's not turning up at the moment. Fine, he's not the only one. But if Kane underperforms in the way that he has been, Conte will take him out of the team. He doesn't give a fuck. Honestly. And so expect to see a change in Harry Kane. Adam English says, Buon pomeriggio, James. Good afternoon, Italian. Brushing up my Italian. Season starts now. Excited. Yes, it'd be a very different atmosphere for Thursday's Europa Conference game. And that's a little bonus, obviously, for those wanting to know kind of what's going to happen next for Tottenham assets. There's every chance that Conte's going to pick his strongest. What he would think, kind of without looking in 1 or 2 training sessions, possibly pick what he would deem his strongest team on Thursday and play it again on Sunday. I think that's a possibility. So Tottenham are in a precarious position in that competition where actually can't afford not to win on Thursday. Win on Thursday shouldn't really be a problem in terms of progressing. Fail to win it, because we're basically in a 3-team group rather than a 4-team group, it would mean we got 2 points from our kind of three-way league with Vitesse and Rennes. So we can't afford to be losing the game. So I think we'll get some clues Thursday night. Really looking forward to it. If we put a strong team out on the pitch, we shouldn't have a problem. And then that instantly gets the fans on side. Absolutely buzzing for Sunday now. I'm going up to Everton. My dad nudged me towards the end of the United game. He's like, why the fuck are you going up there? And I'm like, it's what I do. So now I've got something to look forward to. And he does, we could get beat at Everton. Of course we could, although they're not in a good moment either. But it's, yeah, exactly that, Adam. It feels like the start of something new and fresh. Certainly for me, I think for a lot of people, this will feel the same as when Mourinho took over. But the circumstances are very different, right? There was the torn heartstrings in terms of Pochettino had lost the dressing room, not wanting him to go really, but perhaps it was the right decision. I still stand by that. The problem was the 2 appointments that followed have been absolutely fucking useless. This doesn't feel like it. Tottenham just need to keep Conte happy. And good things will happen for Tottenham in the near future. And good things in the immediate is not winning the league or winning the Champions League. It's starting to play good football again, first and foremost, and winning games. That's it. That's all. Anybody at Tottenham wants to start is their football team back. And it's been, listen, don't cry for us or anything, but it's been a shitty couple of years. So we're looking forward to having a football team back. I'm absolutely certain that's what we're going to get. Neil Thompson says, afternoon, James. Hope you're well. No question, but just wanted to say keep up the good work. Hope you're not getting too excited about Mr. Conte. I think I'm allowed to. Dan L says, hi James, I already have Kane. The only way I can see of getting Son in though is downgrading Antonio to Hwang in 11 and then Havertz to Son in 12. I'll miss out on Tony, but I have Mbuemo. Thoughts? My thoughts are going for Hwang at the moment. He's absolutely fine. 4 good fixtures to go. Palace, West Ham, Norwich, Burnley. Then you probably don't want for a fairly horrendous 7 fixtures or so they've got afterwards, which has Watford sitting in the middle, but the other 6 are really rough. They've got City, Brighton, Arsenal, Man United away, and they've also got Liverpool and Chelsea at home. Really rough set of fixtures for Wolves from 15, and we knew this was coming because they've had this brilliant game week 4 to 14 run. So short-term, Hwang's okay. Hwang could become Broha by then, right? For example, someone else at similar value, perhaps an Adam Armstrong or something. I don't mind it. Like, Tony's not a must or anything, mate. I'm going there. It works for me to go Antonio to Tony and then Havertz to Son. I'm a little bit short financially, but I've got an extra transfer in hand to find that money to make it viable. I wouldn't, if you really want Tony, mate, I wouldn't be against taking the -4 to make these moves happen, honestly. Tamme Gord says, hi James, what Conte will bring to your club? Discipline, harmony. The one thing I've been reading up a lot about today is actually, and I've kind of been loath to do it till the appointment was confirmed at kind of lunchtime today, was actually how much emphasis is put in terms of always modelling of actually team harmony and building the collective in terms of team spirit and stuff is far bigger than I thought it was. And those players, like I said, they're not together at the moment. Like Nuno split the camp into two teams, didn't he? A first team and a second team. It was kind of the final straw and stuff. The players hated Mourinho. I found out last night in an article in The Athletic, I think I want to say written by Charlie Eccleshare, that there was a lot made of obviously Mourinho got sacked before the League Cup final after the 2-2 draw at Everton. All the players had a vote amongst themselves before the Everton game if they wanted Mourinho to stay or not, and only 2 of them wanted him to stay. What does that tell you? And that's why he got sacked. So I expect Conte to bring harmony, team spirit, tactical knowledge and intensity to Tottenham. And again, it's not going to happen overnight. You can't change the most unfit team in the league because of the last 2 managers to suddenly being one of the fittest. And it needs a whole kind of overhaul of the squad. There are minimal players in that squad who I think kind of work. If I visualise a Conte title winning team at Tottenham, like there's no one really there. Maybe the goalkeeper, but he'll need replacing at some point in the next couple of years. Harry, obviously, if he wants to get back on board, and Sonny, possibly Christian Romero might develop. There's no one else, so it's miles off from that kind of thing. But there's so many positives at the moment, I think, and the link of Paratici and Conte, the fact they've worked together previously, I think is very helpful. 333 Marson, hi James, hope you're well. I have KDB, Salah and Kane. Would you hold or look to move away from free premiums, downgrade KDB to Son? I know if I sell him, he'll haul. KDB, any game, any time, and often you are worth selling him in a big game. But he's not even a guaranteed starter for Manchester City at the moment. A lot that has to do with Ganardo and Bernardo Silva's movement is really helpful to Phil Foden when he plays up front. KDB doesn't move in the same way off the ball into striking positions. Wants to see the game, which, when in my opinion you're the best midfield on the planet, that's exactly how you should be playing the game. But it's not quite working to what Man City are trying at the moment. So the KDB to Son is an easy move. Let's be honest about it. It's not difficult. Of course KDB can return. Same, you ever sell a player like a KDB or Ronaldo or even Harry Kane, yeah, look, they can return when you sell them. That's obvious. Andre Souza says, biggest FPL priority under Conte, Son or Kane? Well, there's not a straightforward answer for that, because I can't tell you in the first instance how Conte plays. So there's a lot of people have already assumed it's 3-5-2 with Son up front with Kane. Get that? That's what it might be. But I remember the Chelsea team with Hazard and Pedro playing off Diego Costa. And actually the makeup of what Spurs have got in terms of players like Bergwijn, Lucas, Brian Hill, etc. You play 3-5-2, where do they fit in? On a side note, I can see Lucas Moura becoming right wing back actually. But at 3-4-2-1 might be the more likely, in which case there wouldn't be too much difference to Son's role than what he's got currently. Probably allowed greater expression of movement. But Sonny's the best in terms of movement off the ball anyway. He's one of the best in the league. He's in behind running and stuff. There isn't a simple answer to it. I've got Harry. I'll be getting Sonny in game week 12. The only thing that's going to stop that happening is injury. To be fair, that was happening for me anyway. Even if Nuno had still been in charge, I wasn't flinching on it. I was still going to do it because I think those fixtures were so attractive. And actually, from an FPL perspective, it's a little bit disappointing that this has happened because everybody else now wants a piece of the pie as well. I think to prioritise one, again, it's not an easy answer, right? Because my instinct's to say Son, because in the immediate, over kind of a shorter stretch of games, obviously his returns are worth more points in terms of 1 more for a goal. Unlikely possibility of clean sheet, but I'm sure we will improve defensively under Conte. But then Kane lines it up perfectly to move to Ronaldo in 16 as well. So I think you have to consider your future plans. And I really think that the decision for a lot of you, who many of you will use your wild card, I'd ask you to kind of imagine a scenario that you get to game week 15 and Tottenham have played Norwich and Kane and Son have blanked. This is possible. What are you then doing? Or if you take one route, what are you doing afterwards? Because I think Brighton away, Leicester away, Liverpool at home is a sell, really. But then are you happy to hold? Because then on the other side, it's Crystal Palace, Southampton, Watford. Do you think, so Son is an easier long-term hold because of his consistency. Kane less so, I think, at the moment. But I wouldn't be surprised if Harry starts going off big. I've got Harry in first. That structurally worked better for me. I think right now, based on what you've seen performances of the two, Sonny is at up to speed, and that's probably the easiest one to buy first if you are just looking at Son versus Kane. FPL Kaka, Conte, a manager who made Giaccherini look decent for Italy, a Sunderland reject. I remember the player, yeah. Surely Doherty has a chance. I can't see it because Doherty's so bad. But a lot of people have obviously said, look, he can't play right back, he can only play right wing back. Okay, I'm sure he'll get an opportunity, probably in the Europa League games. I'm not saying necessarily this week. He's also behind everybody else on fitness. That's the key point. But then, if you think back to Conte's first season at Chelsea, who saw Victor Moses playing in that team every week? It came from absolutely nowhere, kind of like after they lost that game at Arsenal. And he stayed in that team all season, basically, bar obviously the little bit of rotation. So I wouldn't rule it out, because Victor Moses was a player who just notoriously, year on year, went on loan, Liverpool, Stoke, West Ham, I probably missed a couple of others, was never going to make it at Chelsea. Suddenly, bang, he was an integral part of their title-winning team. So I wouldn't rule it out, but then I look at the characteristics of Doherty and Moses, and Moses obviously was a very athletic player. He was also a very committed player. He cared a lot, I think. He ran up and down that touchline a lot. Doherty can't turn. I can't quite see how that's going to work in a Conte system, personally. But I'm sure he'll get a chance. But people instantly coming to the conclusion that, 4.7 Doherty, it's suddenly going to happen. You're mad. People ask me a lot, am I mad, James? I always go, no. Now listen, you're mad, right? I can't see that happening. As I already said, I can see Lucas Moura becoming a right wing back because of that. Because he's got similar characteristics in terms of his style of play to Victor Moses. I can see that. Now, can Emerson play right-sided centre-back? I don't know. But that might happen. Let's be honest. Tottenham have one good centre-back, who actually, in Christian Romero, will be extremely well-suited to playing in a back three because he steps out of position too much. And with two other protectors, he can do it more. Could he play Emerson right-sided centre-back and Ben Davies left-sided centre-back? Does that work? Could Tanganga be one of them? We haven't got the answers. We're all guessing. And Conte's going to come in and form his own opinion. Conte doesn't even know yet, does he? Till he looks at them. And Matthew Halliday says, hi James, would Newcastle still be among your top 3 relegation candidates if Emery was to be appointed? Good evening to the Newcastle listeners. Yes, they would. Because they're shit. Frankly, I would have far more trust in Burnley to get the results. I do think Unai Emery would be a very good appointment for Newcastle, and that's what it looks like it's going to be. The problem I think he'll have is if he doesn't have the immediate results over the next 5 or so, he's used to managing a team that's winning, right? What's his experience of getting someone out of it? That's why this appointment for Newcastle is really difficult. So, how's he going to feel working alongside people who, let's be honest, are of more limited ability? Now, of course, they're obviously going to get some players in January, but what are they on at the moment? 3 points? 4 points? I mean, it's a climb already, isn't it? Burnley won at the weekend. Leeds won at the weekend. Does anybody really think Brentford are going to slump? Not really. They've got a good head start and good fixtures too. Burnley look like they're finally getting it together. Leeds, I'm convinced, to be fine. There's no other. Palace are good now. There's no other candidates to really think, well, who will Newcastle catch? So it's, as I said already when the takeover happened, I think it's going to become probably the biggest story of this football season is whether they'll stay up at the end. And right now, if you pressured me, I'd say they probably won't. I don't make a big deal because they'll come straight back up and stuff. And it'll probably give them greater time to assess, go and buy kind of the best young talent in the country. I wouldn't be surprised they nicked a few players who were kind of on the fringes, kind of 19, 20-year-olds at Premier League clubs, go to Newcastle, get in the team, get them back up. Like it wouldn't be a crisis situation. It would just delay the inevitable of what's obviously going to happen there in the longer term. Sagnik says, I know West Ham has David Moyes and is challenging for the top four, but it's such jealous now, even a little bit. We haven't recorded our Tottenham podcast, obviously, for patrons, which we'll record later for tomorrow. Obviously, it was with Suj yesterday when the news broke. And he was like, how do you feel after we'd finished? Because the news broke, obviously, while we was recording, although we knew it was coming. And when it kind of was breaking in the afternoon about Conte, he was like, how do you feel? And I was like, well, if that... I don't want to jump the gun, mate, because it looked like it was going to happen in the summer, and it didn't. His honest opinion was like, I'm disappointed. And he has every right to be, because West Ham are... If you think of West Ham are, honestly, right now for me, probably the fourth best team in this league. Their consistency is very good. They've got a great manager. They're growing. They've got good young developing players. Solid as, really good. And then you've kind of removed Tottenham from the equation, who they obviously hate us and stuff as well. And Tottenham might be able to come back into that equation with obviously the manager is what's going to make it happen if it does. But West Ham fans, this is what I always say, this is West Ham just need to concentrate on West Ham and not worry about what Tottenham are doing, because if West Ham finish on 76 points, they'll finish top four. Certainty. So you've got to concentrate on their own. But I think he's probably looking at it and going in terms of, people talk about power shifts, don't they, right? I mean, not that you'd have a power shift between Tottenham and West Ham, but it annoys me people talk about Tottenham and Arsenal. Oh, it's a power shift. As soon as one wins in North London, is there a power shift? It's fucking nonsense. Both have been shit, and West Ham have been shit for 40 years. Now they're in a good moment. So the less challenges they have, obviously the easier for them to be sustainable. Newcastle obviously are going to come up and challenge in the future years as well. So they need to focus on themselves and not worry about it too much. But I can understand that I wouldn't say jealous, but it's probably a bit like, fuck, you were useless and he'll make you all right again. It was probably just more how he felt about it. But we'll certainly speak about it on Patreon tomorrow. Dan says, hope this doesn't come across the wrong way. You mentioned how Spurs had Nuno as a stopgap. Yeah, it wasn't even a gap for as long as I thought it would be. Do you feel it's the other way round now and Conte is using Spurs as a stopgap for a bigger job? Not offended by that, Dan, at all. And I think that's a fairly fair comment, that if we get to the end of the season and Real Madrid offer Antonio Conte the job, or Manchester United offer Antonio Conte the job, he'll go. That's reality. I know where Tottenham stand on the food chain, right? And it's not at the top. So there's certain clubs who will just take him if they want him, right? And I think the whole thing has come about. It's kind of... It stemmed from the United-Liverpool game, where it's just trigger after trigger has meant it's happened. Because Conte went and approached United last week. We know that. All the ITK insiders know that Conte was sounding out United and saying, I want the job. It seems to have come back around that Manchester United have no interest in Antonio Conte. Now, whatever you think of that, it's obviously personal opinion of everyone. Personally, as I said on that podcast last Tuesday, I thought it would have been perfect for them, because they need an elite manager to compete with the other elite managers. It's why also it's a very good appointment for Tottenham at the moment. And I think with that, the Real Madrid job off the table. Barcelona got no interest, obviously, in looking at him. Do you even want the Barcelona job at the moment? I mean, Conte's someone who needs the financial backing. That's fairly clear. He's not going to get it at Barcelona, so probably had no interest in that. PSG job, obviously, they wouldn't let Pochettino go back to Tottenham. So it's probably started to look at it and go, well, what job will become available for me? And actually, if you'd said to me last couple of weeks, where will Conte end up if he comes back to the Premier League? I would have said to you, Arsenal. Because my instinct would have been, he'd already turned down Tottenham once, so that won't be on the table. So many other managers supposedly turned down Tottenham. Where were they going to go? And if it came to a halt with Arteta, I could see Arsenal making that move. That's obviously not going to happen now. But yeah, Dan, it's fair comment, mate. That why wouldn't he? It's you say what has Kane used Tottenham for the last 7-8 years? He wanted to go to Man City. We all know it. If the opportunity comes up again and the money is correct, which I've said so many times, Man City never offered proper money for Harry Kane. then he might go now. Tottenham might look at it differently. Conte might look at it and go, because if Conte says to Levy, no, fuck this, sell him, he has to be sold. There's no, oh, we're not selling. No. Conte's in charge now. That's his team. If Conte wants Kane gone, you sell him. And it's not even a question mark. So, and then Conte might turn around 2 weeks later and say, no, sod it, I'm going to Man United. I mean, let's be honest about Guardiola. Man City job 2023. Now that would be a big shift from Guardiola to Conte, but if Man City offered Antonio Conte the job in 2023, he'd probably take it, wouldn't he? I'm not an idiot, Dan. I know where it's at. RW Chris 1983 says, hi James, hope you're well. I'm looking to transfer Townsend out, currently my 4th midfielder, and was wondering whether to go for Gallagher to save 0.3 or go for Elise instead. What do you reckon? I'd highly recommend, mate, listening back to what we said about Crystal Palace on the podcast yesterday when we spoke about the City Palace fixture, because we did quite a bit of an analysis talking about Palace attacking assets and where would be best to go if you wanted to. It's kind of an overwhelming conclusion that it does kind of fall onto Gallagher at the moment, but do have a listen to that. I'd highly recommend it. Jamie Baker says, hi James, hope all is going well. 5.1 million in the bank with 2 free transfers. Thinking of going Williams to Chilwell this week, and then taking a -4 next week for Havertz to Son, Antonio to Kane, and Jimenez to a 4.4 million striker. Thoughts? Have we got a 4.4 million striker? The problem you might find with that, Jamie, is that if you're going to the 4.4, if that's because you're so tight on budget, you may find that that budget's going to get blown apart. Also, for yourself as well, Jamie, I'd recommend listening back to yesterday's Planet FPL podcast. Ollie backed, Nuno sacked is what it's called. You find it easy enough. We spoke about the prospect of Chilwell not starting this week because of Burnley's height. So I wouldn't buy Ben Chilwell this week personally. Cole Patterson, do you like peanut butter? Yes, I don't mind peanut butter. Thank you, Cole. Hollis Stammer says, will KDB play tomorrow? Opinion because of clear lack of fitness against Bruges. Very difficult to say, mate. He's like even looking at you think, oh, well, Laporte will play because he's suspended for the weekend. But does Guardiola think, oh, I need to get Diaz and Stones' relationship back together before the Manchester derby on Saturday? I mean, predicting the City team, a game where they're obviously going to, that they beat them 5-1 away, they're obviously going to beat them at home tomorrow night with whatever team they put on the pitch. Very difficult to say, mate. My instinct would probably be yes, he probably does play. I'm Wilson. Obviously want to ask about Conte. Is this the most excited you've ever been at a Spurs manager appointment? Do you think 2 years is enough time to make his mark? What would be your predicted 11 under him? I've kind of spoken about comparing to previous appointments, so many of them being underwhelming. So the answer to that is yes. 2 years is enough time for him to make his mark. I expect him to be making a mark on this team by the end of January, actually, in terms of you can see a clear change of identity. Certainly stylistically anyway, and the mentality of the players. What do I expect? I don't expect to win a trophy at this stage. It's too much to ask for that right now. And they're getting harder and harder to win. I think I'll be keeping an eye on which teams drop out the Europa League because, I mean, if he can sort it out by January and we're still in that Conference League, then we should be favourites to go and win that competition by the time May comes round. Obviously, if we keep progressing. Predicted 11. Okay, so, I mean, as I've said, I think I can see Lucas Moura at right wing back. I can see Reguilon at left wing back. I think another player who might see benefit, and he's injured at the moment, is Ryan Sessegnon. Because Ryan Sessegnon at the moment, he's not good enough to be a left winger in the Premier League. And he's not defensively astute enough to be a left back. But he might be a very good left wing back, possibly. So I think he's one that might get integrated into the squad quite quickly, who you might not be expecting. And that will be obviously to give Reguilon competition, because Ben Davies is not at the stage of being a wing back. I think we're looking at Ben Davies as being coverage on left-sided centre-back. Romero definitely is essential. I think the sensible opinion at the moment would be, genuinely, it's probably just Romero, Dyer, Sanchez as the three. Royal at right wing back, Reguilon at left wing back. As I've said earlier, I think I can see Lucas at right wing back. Whether that would get implemented as quick as this week is difficult to say. I don't know if Emerson can play right-sided centre-back, but again, I think back and think, did we ever see Azpilicueta playing that way at first? No, not often. So I think that can be converted. He's certainly got the height to play the position, more than Azpilicueta, actually. He's got recovery pace, which someone in the back line is going to have it if Romero's going to play central with a back three. Left-sided centre-back will be a huge priority. Absolutely huge priority now that Conte's in the door. I think central midfield, probably in the immediate, will probably be Højbjerg and Skip. And I think, at the moment, I think it'll be 2 behind Kane rather than 2 directly up front. And I think you're probably looking, if Lucas was wing-back, you're looking at Bergwijn coming in the team playing with Son behind Kane. If it's not Lucas at wing-back, then obviously Lucas would still be part of that starting team at the moment. It is impossible to say. I haven't spoke about Skip, Dele Alli. Dele Alli's done damage to Antonio Conte teams in the past, by the way, when Tottenham played his Chelsea. So he's probably got quite a high opinion of Dele Alli. So he might get another chance. Ndombele, he's either going to be integral to what he does, or as described on The Athletic, he might be getting fired out the training ground in a cannon. Very, very difficult to say. It's almost a little bit exciting not knowing, actually. Like, what's he going to do? Because I don't know. I'm guessing like the rest of you. I've got no previous to know what Antonio Conte is going to do with a Tottenham team. Other than I think we can all come to the same presumption at the moment that it will probably become wing-backs very quickly. Matthew Ian Moose says, "Hi James, what are you more impressed with? Spurs actually getting Conte or Antonio's hamstrings holding out for 10 game weeks?" Spurs getting Conte, because I think David Moyes has been managing Mikel Antonio very, very well. Dennis Maximoff, "Hi James, great content. Please advise. I have 2 free transfers and not sure which direction to go. To get Son, I need to sell Foden." You probably just bought Foden, I bet. "Also, would you swap Rafinha for Mbeumo? Any advice on Spurs defence?" No, I wouldn't move off Rafinha. No, I wouldn't be desperate to get rid of Phil Foden. Okay, so it was all the rage last week. Get Foden, 1 blank. Sell him. Calm down, it's not going to return every week. And the advice on Spurs defence right now is don't fucking bother. Clueless. The safest is probably Reguilon. I get that. He's going to become interesting as a left wing back. I don't think there's a doubt about that. But what if we're wrong? What if Conte just doesn't rate him? He goes, nah, sod it. This kid Sessegnon's fit. I'm going to play Sessegnon. No, as I said, none of us would have seen that coming with Victor Moses. So people either get on side with it or they won't be in the team. It's impossible to say. That defence is shite at the moment. I'd keep an eye on Emerson Royal at 4.9 because I think he's getting better and better week on week, actually, Emerson Royal. So I think he offers an alternative. But if you're looking to buy Spurs defence this week, nah, stop that. Look at any of the other 18, 19 teams, other than probably Norwich. So, no, I can't give you the advice at the moment, other than Reguilon will almost definitely feature at left wing back. Romero is definitely going to be part of the team. Now, you want 100% now, there's no way Christian Romero is not going to be part of that team going forward now. No way at all. In terms of attacking potential from him, minimal. You get the odd goal from a set piece or something, minimal. I would still be looking elsewhere. If you got the luxury, fine, take a punt on Reguilon. But if you're doing it because you need to get one, nah, let me tell you don't. Because there's still a lot of shit there defensively at the moment. And again, he's not superhuman, Conte. He's not going to fix it overnight. Which kind of answers Will Atkinson's question. Thank you, Will, for any idea how Conte will use Reguilon. I imagine as a left wing back, mate. Luke Hopkinson, "Hi James, got Laporte. Who would you drop down for 4.5 or under? Already have Livramento. Cheers, mate. Good news for Spurs. Think Dele Alli is done now." That might go the other way with Dele Alli. I'd look at Brentford, mate. Short term. I think if I was forced into a change right now, that's possibly where I'm heading. Palace are in my thoughts. I think Burnley should be in your thoughts. They're not in mine because I've already got one. Brighton still have good fixtures for a consistent period. This is one. All these teams I mentioned are better options right now than buying Spurs defensive, in my opinion. So I'd look at Brentford. And I think if I was pushed, I'd take a chance on Rico Henry at the moment, actually. Garlic25 says, "Afternoon, James. Non-FPL or Spurs related, what would your 11 be if you could only pick one player from each team in the Prem? Also pick your formation. Egg Hugo can't pick another Spurs player after." Garlic, someone's nicked this question off you. And we've promised we're going to do it on a Patreon Q&A on Monday. And we're both going to do it. Because I can't think of it on the spot. And I've not had time to think about it properly. Off the top of my head, let's have Kieran Tierney in at left back. Let's have Emi Martinez in goal. Let's have Lewis Dunk at centre back. Let's have N'Golo Kante in midfield. Let's have Rafinha. Let's have Mo Salah. Let's have Kevin De Bruyne. Let's have Ronaldo. I'd still have fucking Kane. I've got too many forwards now, and let's have Sonny instead then. Declan Rice. I need some centre backs. I think I said Dunk, didn't I? Who can have centre backs instead? Right, we'll take out KDB. We'll have Ruben Diaz. Am I close to a team yet? I need a right back, don't I? Livramento. I don't know how many players I picked. Good afternoon, Owen Jones. Hope you're well, mate. Paul Spencer 007 Suj said if he had a spliff, he couldn't get any higher than West Ham was making him feel. By the look on your face, did you think he might already be stoned when he was talking about his wildcard ideas next week? I mean, I think it made for a good debate anyway. I think personally, and he won't mind me saying this, I did barking up the wrong tree with his wildcard ideas for next week. I think he's probably thinking it's the last international break. He's got 2 weeks to make a decision. It's a good idea. But the sort of moves he wanted to make, like the timing is just not right, basically, in my opinion. It made for a good debate. I was surprised because we hadn't had that conversation previously, as we often don't. We just get into it and what will be will be. I think I talked him out of it, in all fairness. And by the way, I can confirm, because when we spoke later in the day and we did the Q&A, I said to him, like, because he was talking about getting rid of Kane, by then it become kind of clear Conte was probably coming. I was like, do you feel any different about getting rid of Kane now? He was like, oh yeah, Kane's staying now. So I think he's talked himself out of it as well. Noor Azari, Mount and Manquillo for James and Smith Rowe. Which way round are you going? You going from Mount and Manquillo to James and Smith? I'm going to guess as those two are the ones that returned last week. Yeah, I don't mind that. That's fine. Bivik Shahi says Antonio Jota, if not playing, Christensen to Tony and Buemo to James. Good moves for -4 this week. So you want to get Tony in, selling and Buemo. This sounds quite reactionary, I think, to a few things. You've done a -4 there, which feels like a long way. I'm guessing maybe you've already got 3 Chelsea and you want Reece James. I'm not sure which way you're doing this, to be honest. I'm going to have to say no. FPL Claire E, 1 to bench, Livramento, White, Redmond. I don't think you're benching Ben White with that fixture, unfortunately, are you? But the ceiling's so low with it. Tino's got a good fixture as well. Redmond flats to the save. I think I'd bench Redmond, Claire. Actually. Yeah. It's an unusual one for me to say, but I think that's, bench Redmond, I think. Paul Sweeney says, long term, who's the better option, Gallagher or Smith Rowe? Cheers, James. Also covered that on yesterday's Planet FPL podcast as well, my friend, and I answered Emil Smith Rowe. Bevik Shahi, we discussed it in more detail again during the Palace section. Bivik says, regard the moves unlocks Havertz to Son as well next week with Spurs triple upped. Okay, best of luck. FPL PTSD says, hi James, it's my daughter's birthday today. Happy birthday to your daughter. And I've only just finished my son's birthday cake, and to be honest, I'm now sick of the stuff. So with that in mind, what's your favourite type of cake? Not Tottenham cake, in all honesty. I don't know why it's pink. No one's ever been able to explain that. Why is Tottenham cake pink? It doesn't make sense. I'm a sucker for a bit of any. Look at me. Sponge, cheese, chocolate fudge. That'd be top of the list. Chocolate fudge, bit of warm cream. Yeah, mate. Thank you very much, Vivek. JP says, hello, James. Any potential signings you hope happen in January transfer window for any Premier League team? I mean, like, Tottenham need to spend about 500 million, obviously. I mean, Conte's been promised 150 million. That's not enough. Any potential signs? I hope Tottenham need to buy a dominant midfield player, be it a 10 or someone who can run the game in central midfield. And we now absolutely desperately need a left-sided centre-back. Massively. Just because of the change of manager. Those would be the 2 priorities for Tottenham to fix for me. We need depths in other areas. Like if Ryan Sessegnon's not going to be up to it, we would need another left wing back. But I think I can see that working for Ryan as a backup to Reguilon. I don't think too much about signings of other teams. It's interesting to see what's going to happen with Newcastle, but in terms of hoping, I hope my team buy the right players is all I hope. FPLD says, hi James, who was better in their prime in your opinion, Kaka or Lampard? Sorry for the benefit of the audio, because my kind of nonplussed look is not going to do any good for you there. That's not even a debate, mate. Because Kaka, at his peak, around about 2006-ish, 7-ish, was the best player on the planet, mate. So it's not, if we're doing peaks here, there is no debate on that. It's Kaka, mate. Gary Reza, hi mate. If Spurs had kept Nuno, how many points do you think we'd have got out of the next 5 games? Truthfully, I would say 8. Win 2, draw 2, lose 1. I could see something like that. And that might be what it is under Conte, right? Might easy be. I mean, but we're looking at 15 points now. It's certainly the aim. Certainly the aim. I'm not going to, if we don't win at Everton, I'm not going to shit myself over the weekend, but we're going there to try and win the game now. Whereas even in spite of how shit they've been, I just have no confidence in it at the moment. I'd have had no confidence really in terms of playing Leeds, other than knowing that if the front two could get chances, they'll do damage. Burnley away are improving. It's beginning to look a tougher game by the week. Brentford decent at home. Norwich at home. You would expect a routine home victory. But yeah, I mean, the way it was going, no fixture was beginning to look routine. Now, there's obviously hope that in this week alone, if we win the 2 games, Tottenham fans will go into the international break absolutely buzzing. And then the excitement for the first league game against Leeds, bearing in mind we'll go on last because we're 4:30 on a Sunday, be a banging atmosphere. Be really good. The whole vibe will change instantly if this week goes well. So, and then if you win that as well, then I think your confidence is flying and there's games there that become very winnable. What Conte does do as well is he gives us a live chance in terms of some of the bigger games as well, because it's just set up tactically so much better. Chris Allman says, good afternoon, James. Congratulations on a superb managerial appointment. Thank you. I didn't make it myself. Do you think there may be a Spurs asset to come in completely from the cold and become a key player like Victor Moses did? Not from a fantasy perspective, but I think out of nowhere could come Ryan Sessegnon. I could see that working. That's not to scare people who are thinking about Reguilon. Reguilon's first choice, and at the moment Sessegnon's injured. I think it's one that I can see that might develop. From a fantasy perspective, no. It's still the obvious. I don't see anything happening here where suddenly Bergwijn or Lo Celso is going to start going off. That sort of stuff's not going to happen, right? It's going to be about getting the best out of them 2 up front. Excuse me. Lamici says, hi James. Sky Fantasy question. Would you move Matip to Livramento on Friday and captain him over Martinez? Looking to free up money to get Kane. Also, which keeper would you move Martinez to on Saturday? So, Matip looks like it's probably got to go, unfortunately. I made that decision to move it on Sunday. I don't mind it because now Friday's not a great entry point. I think you need to make the Livramento decision and remove the captaincy idea out of the equation, because Martinez is still reasonable for you on Friday. So is Livramento the player you want long term? If he is, fine. I don't mind you captain him, because in front of the cameras, if he plays well, there's every chance he'll get the man of the match as well. So I don't mind it. In terms of freeing up the money for Kane, I'm still likely to move Martinez to Fernandes on Saturday. I just think in that game, 6 million keeper, which will sound ridiculous to the FPL listeners, but it's extremely cheap in Sky Fantasy. I've got to give it a chance when they've got good fixtures. They've got Norwich first, so there might be immediate returns. I wasn't impressed with what I saw of him at Burnley, but I think, yeah, I'm still going to make that move and give it a chance. Starting 6.0 goalkeeper for a side that's got really good defensive numbers, aside from the one game at Burnley at the weekend, I think, yeah, we can take it a chance, and I'm highly likely to make that move. And it also means I'll be going Kane on Sunday this week from Havertz. Andres Yames says, hi James, I have the money to move Antonio to Kane for free. Is there any reason to hold back the transfer for 1 week? We can't predict injuries over the international break and that sort of thing. But I can imagine if Harry Kane scores this weekend, he will be all the rage during the international break. He'll probably be the most bought player before that Leeds game, because it's not just the Leeds game, it's the fixtures afterwards as well, right? And that ownership will actually absolutely fly. No, I think if you can make the move this week for free, if you've got the money in the bank, Harry's got a notoriously very good record against Everton, he even scored there twice under Mourinho, I would make the move. All Stars Club, 2 questions from me. Should I remove Antonio or Watkins this week to get the sum money? And also, who's the best UCL captain choice for tonight's matches? Thank you. With Lewandowski tonight, that's absolutely straightforward. We have released a Patreon podcast on Champions League Fantasy a couple of hours ago. Moving Antonio or Watkins straight for Watkins would be if you've got both, would be the priority get rid. I think even in spite of the fixtures, he's going to end up in wide position. Maybe if things is out, you might want to stick with that a bit longer. So I'd probably be waiting on team news. I'd be more inclined to keep Watkins if suddenly Danny Ings is out for a couple of weeks. I'd be inclined to probably keep that for a little bit. I'm going Antonio to Tony this week. That's been my planned move for a number of weeks, and that's still what I'm going to be doing. FPL Karamba says, "Hi James, imagine you are the new sheikh in London. You just bought Spurs and have unlimited money. What would be the first 5 signings with Conte as manager?" Declan Rice. That'll upset a few people. Declan Rice. Unlimited money. I mean, can I take like Van Dijk from Liverpool and shit like that? I mean, that, to be honest, even taking Rice from West Ham, even with unlimited money, still feels unrealistic. Let's go a little bit more realistic, perhaps realistic targets then. Perhaps like Wiese Bissouma at Brighton. I really like. Trying to think of players that can fit that wing-back system now. Be Ricardo Pereira at Leicester. A decent shout, I think, actually. We're going to need a backup forward if he's going to go 2 up front. So what about someone like Callum Wilson as a backup, maybe? Even a Che Adams at Southampton as a backup. I realize these aren't kind of unlimited dream money signings. But Tottenham still got Tottenham have got to punch clever in the transfer market, as will Newcastle still have to. The FFP laws are still going to be there, and they're going to get watched so closely, aren't they? It's obvious. So you still got to punch clever when you do it. You can't just go and say, "Oh, there's 200 million for Mbappe." I mean, yeah, like I could do that. See, let's buy Mbappe. Let's buy, I don't know. Let's take Matthias de Ligt from Juventus. Let's take Messi. Let's take Ronaldo from United. These things aren't realistic, are they? So I think the 5 players will reinvent. You'd have Maradona, Pele, Cruyff. I was going to say Platini, but it's a bit of a fraud, isn't he? Brazilian Ronaldo, Marco van Basten. I could do with some of these Italian defenders. Could he get hold of Chiellini for a year or 2? That'd be fucking amazing, actually. He'd come and give it it's in the history of Tottenham, wouldn't he? I'm not sure he'd get welcomed. Owen Wilson, when did you believe Conte was definitely signing? All the ITKs, the experienced journalists were all saying done last night, weren't they? Completely. So, I went to bed last night thinking, yeah, although I was sitting there, please just post something at 11 o'clock and say it's done or something. So, this morning it became very clear that there was going to be an announcement at lunchtime, was what we'd heard. And sure enough, it was 12 o'clock exactly. It got posted. So last night I felt comfortable, but honestly didn't truly believe it till I got posted a picture of him holding the shirt 5 minutes before the news broke. Was the first I thought, and even then you're zooming in and going, is it legit? I'm not sure if it's legit. It obviously was. FPL Invincible says, good afternoon James, do you think doubling up on City defence is still a good idea? I have Diaz and Cancelo, but I'm thinking swap Diaz to Chilwell and double up with Reece James. As kind of already said, I would not buy Ben Chilwell this week, personally. I wouldn't, and yet you can still stick with a City defensive. It's ingrained us that we want to move City have just had a bad result against Palace. Chelsea kept another clean sheet. City's period will come again. I wouldn't force it. I mean, is Chilwell an upgrade on Diaz? Generally speaking, because of the attacking output, yes, he is, as long as he's going to keep minutes. Again, I'd recommend a podcast yesterday. I think there's a strong possibility that Marcus Alonso plays against Burnley because of Burnley's hype. Gavin Tate says, has Levy and Paratici done over the Glazers here? It's nothing to do with the Glazers, mate. They've taken advantage because the Glazers don't want Antonio Conte, mate. The Glazers want Brendan Rodgers, but no one believes me. Bivik Shahi says, I played Jota over Christensen this week, missed the deadline pod, and to ask James. Not sure what you asked me, Bivik, but thanks. George Nibbs, who to play this week? Rodrigo, Cancelo or Duffy? Cancelo is a play regardless of fixture, mate. They might beat United 5-0, mate. Don't worry about the shit Tottenham team you saw at the weekend. Cancelo might get an 18-pointer or so. Definitely play Cancelo. Never leave him out as far as I'm concerned. Who's your other players? Duffy, Rodrigo. I'd leave out Rodrigo. Yeah, I probably would. He's playing a little bit more withdrawn if Sunday's anything to go by than what I would expect of him anyway. I'd expect him leading the line, and he's they swap positions a little bit at the moment in Bamford's absence, so I'd leave Rodrigo. That said, I recorded COTC with Andy and Aaron for Thursday last night, and we are predicting goals in that fixture. Fuck it, I'd leave Duffy out. Colm Bugler would like everyone in the chat to hit that like. Much appreciated, Colm. Yeah, if you're in the stream, hit the like and the subscribe. Be much appreciated. And obviously, if you're listening on the audio, a little review wouldn't go amiss, particularly if you're on old iTunes. Khalid says, should I sell Vardy for Kane? Not this week, mate. That'll be the clear advice you hear on Thursday's Clash to Correspondence. Don't sell Jamie Vardy this week. FPL Finding Glory says, just joined the video. Just have to say, Conte, come on you Spurs. Time for change. I'm keeping Kane now. Would you watch and wait on the double up? Hope you're good, James. It doesn't make a difference to me because getting Sonny in game week 12 was always part of the plan anyway. To be honest, should Havertz get injured for Chelsea, there's every chance I'll be taking mad hits to get him now. I probably wouldn't actually. I'd have to really rework the plan, so that wouldn't be a good thing for me. It would maybe mean not going with Tony now. I might have to look at it a little bit later. It might mean I didn't go Tony at all. I might have to look at other things. But yeah, part of my strategy plan is to get Son in 12. Always has been, irrespective of the manager. That's not going to change. And ironically, on Friday's Patreon podcast, I discussed the idea that I really need a defensive player basically just to cover me for game week 13. And basically because of ongoing possible issues with Kieran Tierney that we haven't got yet. And actually, I did speak about the likes of Eric Dyer and say, look, can I take him to Burnley and just play him that week? And then it's Brentford, Norwich. Could I play him for those two games when I intend to wildcard in 16? So even the defensive guys, as much as I've said no, on my strategy was a really short-term thing to consider. But generally on the, I wouldn't be rushing. You've no idea what he's going to do. What if Son plays wing back? I mean, I can't see it, but let's at least get Thursday night's information. Then Friday, we can look at it in a bit more detail. I'd have obviously the deadline stream be out for you Saturday as well. Friday be people's poll. We will put up the opportunity for something Tottenham related to be discussed on that podcast on Friday, which I'd probably recommend you vote for because I'm going to be at the game Thursday night, so I can give you some sort of intel in terms of what I see from that as well. I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks very much for all your questions. Sorry to those I didn't get to. If you want to send me a screenshot of your question, feel free to DM me on Twitter at Planet FPL Pod. I will have a look at it for you in the next 24 hours or so. Sky Fantasy Football Podcast tomorrow. As I said, Clash of Correspondence Thursday, Leeds versus Leicester, FPL tactician Aaron Lagor. Friday, People's Poll, probably Tottenham. Saturday on YouTube will be the deadline stream. Oh no, it's Friday, isn't it? Sorry, Friday night deadline stream. 5:30 PM UK time. On Patreon this week, we released the Champions League Fantasy preview earlier today. We had our Q&A as we do every Monday yesterday. Tomorrow, Tottenham, we're going to go into detail in terms of Nuno's sacking, what the atmosphere was like at Saturday, what it means going forward for Tottenham longer term, and also the potential takeover that might be happening at West Ham. We've got a quiz Thursday. We'll have our Game Week 11 preview on Friday. Those podcasts are available from intermediate tier. 22 additional podcasts on Patreon from intermediate tier. There'll be 22 advanced video tier content during the month as well. And if you just want to buy us a pint for a month, we'd love to have you join our Slack community with nearly 500 other patrons in the Planet FPL Slack channel. £3 a month. Thank you for all the podcasts, James and Suj. Cheers. Keeps my baby fed and stuff anyway. Right, thanks guys. We'll leave it there. For the benefit of those on the audio, cue music, please, man child.